This is the Hello World podcast, where we talk about habits of success, habits of excellence, entrepreneurship, leadership, learning and development, and outlook that will help us succeed through life. This is Louis Banta, CEO and Chief Trainer of Learning Just Made Better, or LJMB. And this is episode 19 of the Hello World podcast. This episode 19 is for the second L in Hello, which stands for Learning and Development. Our guest for today will talk about the virtual learning imperative, URC's Agile response. Our guest for this episode 19 currently leads the talent management and organization development team in URC, or Universal Robina Corporation, one of the Philippines' food and beverage giants. Her scope includes talent acquisition, learning and development, and organization development across the Philippines and Asia. URC's main divisions are Branded Consumer Foods Group and the Agro-Industrial and Commodities Group, which includes Agro-Industrial Group, URC Flour, and URC Sugar and Renewables. For my fellow Gen Xers, we can all remember our childhood days where we enjoyed Jack and Jill products. You remember cheese curls, chippy, and potato chips. And of course, they're also popularly known with the blockbuster C2, the bottled tea that we all love. One of their newer products include C Charon, and of course, they've also reintroduced other variants and flavors of great taste. The coffee that we all loved since back then in the 80s. URC is present not just in the Philippines. I said earlier, they're a giant here in the Philippines, but they have manufacturing operations in Asia, in Thailand, Myanmar, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Oceania. Our guest has been with the company, with URC, for 4 years, but has held similar roles in various industries such as pharmaceutical, technology, cable ad broadcasting, manufacturing, and agribusiness. She also went into consulting for 1.5 years for both the private and public sector. Our guest is also close to my and LJMB's heart for being, and I would say, an avid fan, a loyal client, a believer of LJMB, even when we were still starting. Our guest is none other than Miss Susan Tayag.
Hello, world, and thank you for having me, Louis, and the LJMB. It's glad to be with you. I'm glad to be with you this afternoon. It's an afternoon at this time, and to be sharing and having this conversation with you.
And as I mentioned, Susan and I go a long way back in meeting each other in the Philippine Society. Back then, it's called FOR, or Training and Development. Now it's Talent Development. And it's been a long-term relationship of sharing best practices. Susan would reach out to us in LJMB and give us suggestions and give us practices that we can also incorporate in what we do. So when we thought of this episode, this batch of Hello for Learning, the name Susan Tayag came to mind. Susan, you've been with the different companies. I've also served you in your previous organizations. But in URC, having been here for 4 years, before we go to your transformation in L&D this 2020, what was the state of learning initiatives in URC prior to COVID?
It was pretty much established already. When I arrived, L&D was very much active, because also it was hinged on the corporate learning and development initiatives of the JG Summit, corporate office, corporate HR. And so there are programs that cut across the conglomerate. especially leadership programs. And there are programs internal also to URC. And these are mostly technical programs. So I would say it's your usual set of training programs, like you have programs for your executives, senior leaders, middle managers, frontline, and your next gen leaders and individual contributors. And then we have a curriculum for the respective functions, like marketing, finance, and of course the manufacturing side of it. So it was, it was active. It was very much participated in by employees. It was just alive, actually.
Yeah, your keyword earlier was it was established. Yes, an organization with thousands of employees, and
Yes,
also
yes,
part of a big JG group of companies.
yes.
It's up and running. You're going through your routine stuff, and I suppose, Susan, much of it talagang face to face or
Yeah,
in
oo.
person on site delivery, if not
Yes.
all.
Mm-hmm. Almost all. Almost all. We, because aside from the regular employees, we also have, like, with the Gokmoy Brothers Foundation, we have scholarships. We have what we call Scholar and Hiwan, where we get underprivileged kids, and then those who cannot afford to go through college or even through technical vocational school. There's a scholarship open to them, and it is done also in our factories. So GBF has used to have, well, they transferred office, but used to have a school in one of our factories, and that's where we hold all the programs for technical, for leadership, everything. So para kaming may university inside the physical university inside our premises.
Okay. And you are familiar with the story of LJMB on how we were forced to really shift our business model, but that's from a point of view of a training vendor.
Yes.
From a perspective of somebody who runs and operates that university in URC, how soon did the shift happen to digital, online, and virtual learning? If you can walk us through the first few months when the lockdown was announced, no? When, how, and yes, let's talk about lessons that we've also learned in the process.
Actually, our shift to online learning began even before the pandemic. We already had that goal in mind, that objective to build our own learning, to have our own learning management system, to come up with our online learning. Excuse me. So last year, no, actually, yeah, 2018, latter part of 2018, we started the work in looking for vendors, identifying, what we needed to come up with an online learning system. We went through user tests and all that. And finally, last year, during the last quarter town hall of URC, so wala pang pandemic nun, so it was a physical town hall. That's where we kicked off and launched our learning management system. And we called it Your Learning, a play on URC. So you are learning. So that's the name of our LMS. And then, syempre, at the start, no, we had some pilot classes. At that time, we had only about 20 programs, a mix of, syempre, largely self-paced, because we want to introduce palang the people to online learning. So you can't really run a program kagad-kagad, di ba?
Yes.
So just, introduce by curating mga micro-learning courses. So, and then we also had, like, sige, maglagay tayo ng mandatory, like safety, ganyan, code of conduct. But of course, as we went along, kumbaga, the pilot courses were also part of the testing pa rin. So we were getting feedback from the employees who were going through the programs, and we were getting their feedback not just on the courses but also on the system, especially since we were catering to people all across the Philippines.
It's a major change, no? To introduce an LMS.
Yes. So, pilot lang muna. While we launched it in the town hall, the courses were, just bits and pieces, and we're trying it out in several locations, in several levels of the organization. So, when January of 2020 came, that's when we started to do cascades per function, per business unit, because now we're introducing it in full. Okay, so we're going to have an LMS. This is how it works. These are the courses, etc. This is how you navigate through it. So people get to know about it. So hands-on yun. So it was my team who was leading it. Aside from the cascades to the employees, we were also going through train the trainers for our subject matter experts. We had an existing pool of trainers, but we had to tell them, oops, shift tayo, friends. Iba na rin yung how do we design programs online? How do we deliver it online? So, sige, so we started all these cascades in orientation first quarter of the year. March dumating si COVID, right?
Yes.
So when we completed the cascades, COVID happened.
Okay. You had the chance to complete the cascades until Feb. Okay. Perfect timing in a way, no?
Thank you, Lord. Perfect timing. So when COVID happened, we were ready to shift.
Ang ganda. Ang ganda ng story. And of course, you did not know all of this, no? The benefits of early planning, no? Being able to introduce it in Q4.
Yeah, and really go through it. Kasi syempre, di ba, if you don't feel the urgency, hindi rin eh. Parang you can let your schedule slide. But the conglomerate itself, JG Summit itself, is going through digital transformation. So there were different projects across the different functions and business units, digital dashboards here and there, simplification, automation. So in terms of HR, it was the LMS.
Okay.
So it was all part of the corporate strategy naman. So it was just really the right timing that it happened, and we were able to shift to digital. Although not immediate, no? Because syempre when we were doing the cascades, when we were doing the pilot, not everyone would still go and access because busy kami, and they think that, that's just supplemental because it's not mandated eh. So it's just an add-on channel, kumbaga. So
and that was I think the plan still. It was an add-on, supplemental.
Yes.
It's not going to be the sole source of learning.
No, not yet. Kasi syempre, you wouldn't think naman, di ba?
Correct.
So, nasa ganung mode. And then, when was that? When COVID happened and then we were on lockdown, syempre HR was at the forefront also of everything that's happening, di ba? We were taking care of our employees. We were setting all the rules, the protocols and all that. So, walang training.
Yes.
And at the time, we were also reviewing, with the leadership team. We were reviewing, okay, which roles would continue, which roles would have to take a back seat. Kasi ganun talaga eh, di ba?
Yes. Business survival talaga, and employee safety, and
So,
work from home
I was also concerned for my team kasi, okay, magte-training ba tayo? Kasi while we may have the system, hindi din ready yung mga tao, magbi-build pa tayo ng courses, di ba? And all that. So, however, fortunately, that's not the mindset of our leadership team. Sa
Okay.
kanila, tuloy. May
Mm-mm.
LMS tayo, training continues. It
Mm-mm.
will not stop even with the lockdown. And in fact, now that we're in lockdown and other people have not, I mean, the workload is not as much because, we
Mm-mm.
were
They have free
adjusting
time.
to the lockdown, then they have time to go through training. Kaya,
Mm-mm.
when was that? March? Let me look at my numbers here. Yeah.
March 12 ang announcement ni President.
Yes.
March
And then,
16 yung Monday, no? Na first day of working at home.
yeah. So that was March. So we had adjustments by April.
Mhm.
In March, parang 6 active learners lang kami online eh.
Okay.
You may have users, but yung number of users mo, yun lang yung nagla-log in. But
Okay.
active learners are really those who go through the courses.
Mhm.
So March, mga 9 pa lang yan. Pero
Mm-mm.
pagdating ng, when was this? Ayan, May. We had 345 people already.
From 9 to 3:45 in a month's
Yes.
time.
Oo. Kasi nag-double time din yung team ko. Hanap tayo ng mga
Mhm.
programs. And the programs at the time were also something that were relevant to
Mhm.
that situation, to the time.
Mhm.
So we were curating talaga ng courses on
Mhm.
well-being, 'di
Okay.
ba? COVID, well-being, how do you manage cabin fever, yung mga ganun. Kasi
Mhm.
these are the things that anong gagawin ko, 'di ba? Ang daming things were we were in limbo, hindi natin alam
Mhm.
paano ba tayo mag-act in this situation. So
Mhm.
that's what we introduced, that's what we offered to our
Mhm.
employees. And yun, marami tayong active learners at that time because these are the things that they also needed.
The relevance of the courses, no,
The
was a big
relevance of the
factor. Parang
courses.
we need it. People are saying, meron pala nito dito, kailangan ko to, no? And
Oo.
self-paced pa.
So, wag muna tayong business and all that
Mm-mm.
kasi hindi pa
Mm-mm.
siya yung need nung March, April, 'di ba?
Correct.
And then what
Pero
happened?
yung 20 courses, the first 20 courses that you said were ready, uploaded in the system in Q4. So those were para bang those were not the priority courses, no? That
No,
people
not yet.
were asking for.
More
Okay.
personal development.
Okay.
Tapos we had a couple of mandatory courses like safety
Mhm. Mhm.
kasi kailangan
Okay.
na rin siya at the time.
Okay. Your learning, no, because you are
Our
learning.
learning,
The
yeah.
courses were all e-learning, as in everything is all there, or did you also introduce webinars or virtual classes during that time to supplement what's in your learning?
So we started now with micro courses, things that we got from the internet, ganun, yung
Mm-mm.
mga 5, 10, 15-minute courses. Na mga, well, some of them were webinars, but these are just off-the-shelf courses.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the first webinar was my webinar on the Train the
Mm-hmm.
Trainers because we had to train our SMEs. Now, one of the concerns that we had was our executive leadership program. Kasi it's a 6-month program of 3 modules which were held across the region.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's of course it's cross-functional, cross-business unit, and so
Cross-location pa, no? Cross-location.
cross-location because the locations would be where we operate. Kasi for example, we go to Thailand. And it's not just because you want to go to Thailand, but we're also introducing, people from the Philippines to the Thailand operations. So it would be a general manager of Thailand who would open the workshop, ganyan. So parang may sharing of,
Na-imagine ko nakaplano na to, no, itong ELDT mo, no, talagang planado. Kasi logistically, it will require a lot, no, travel and all of those event management aspects.
Oo. So, when lockdown happened, may isa pa kaming module that na hindi pa namin nagagawa. And so, this was supposed to be in Thailand, and this was the last module, and it was all about leading the business.
Mhm.
So usually our facilitator would syempre face to face, and then he would also invite other facilitators to contribute to the workshop.
Mhm.
So how? so how?
Mhm.
So sige, no choice eh. We're going to do
Mm.
it online.
Mm.
Um, but actually, prior to March, in module 2 of that program, we already started introducing your learning to them, to the
Mhm.
participants,
Mhm.
how some of the pre-work would be accessed through your learning.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so meron na silang sense of okay, so this is your
Mm.
learning, how do I go about it? So may
Mm.
first experience na. And then after the module, we have supplemental readings, access it through your learning.
Okay.
And
Okay.
a recording of the program, access it through your learning.
Mhm.
So for the third module, we had to think through and redesign the module. So how are we going to do this online? It's 1 week eh.
Mm.
But you
Mm.
can't do it naman na one whole day, di ba? May
Yes.
fatigue factor ka na dyan. So we had to redesign it while, ensuring that we still maintain the core topics of the
Mhm.
program. And then what's good also about our training partner was that he gathered also more. He gathered more facilitators kasi online ka ni, madali na lang
Yes.
yun, di ba?
Yes.
And there's no travel involved.
Mhm.
So in terms of cost, di ba,
Mm.
mas mamamanage mo yung total cost mo with the travel, with the accommodations. Kasi
Correct.
gawin natin online, we have more facilitators within the same cost.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not only that, since it's online, so originally the batch was for 20 participants. Since it's now online, can we now invite more people?
Mhm.
So we had
Okay.
100 participants for that module.
Biruin mo, no? Opportunity, no?
Opportunity, to spread the learning, diba? To
Mhm.
extend your reach to more
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
Yun. So it was very well received.
Mhm. So you're learning LMS, not
Mm,
knowing that a pandemic will hit 2020. A lot of organizations have been saying this in the past 5 to 10 years. We need to have an LMS. E-learning has been here in the Philippines for 20 years, yes. And each L&D leader will always say, we'll go digital, we'll adapt, implement technology and integrate technology in what we do. Pero
mm,
bibihira talaga yung just like you, was able to at least launch, and in your case, you're also able to cascade to your
mhm,
employees even before this hit us. Yan yung kaninang umaga in one of my workshops, we're talking about return of luck. The concept of return of luck, and the concept here, Susan, is it's not that you're lucky. It's that you were doing something before the problem happened. So
Ayan.
when you had that, when the problem happened, you were able to immediately convert it to an
Yeah.
opportunity. So sasabihin ng iba, swerte ng URC, meron silang your learning LMS. In a way, your anticipation, tama?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
agility that you display there is what
Yeah.
made things easier for you. No?
Right. Right.
So imagining the LMS, it's the usual I enroll, I log in, and you mentioned 20 courses, and on top of that, there are additional courses on mental wellness, no, on well-being, and then
Mm,
safety that you set. I would assume some are in video formats, or a lot
yes.
of
Yes.
them, if not all of them, are video formats, no, and there are exercises, there are
Yeah.
activities.
Yeah. And then when we do our webinars internally, they are recorded already.
Mm.
So for example, my train the trainer run was recorded. So now, for example, we have new SMEs, then they just go through the training through
Okay.
your learning. Hindi na ako
Okay.
kailangan ulit-ulit.
scalable talaga. The good thing about the digital technology, especially in learning, is you can design more as other participants no are already viewing those courses. No?
Yep.
So I know that you had the LMS ready. You still needed to design courses no, when the lockdown started. What can you identify as three things that you shifted, or if you will distill everything,
Mm.
three major shifts that you did? You had a platform, but there's this lockdown ongoing. Ano yung tatlong major key themes of changes that you did?
Um, Primarily mindset.
Okay.
Well, everyone says naman that COVID triggered the
Mm-hmm.
digital transformation, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's the mindset that face-to-face learning is not the only way. And you're now here faced with the fact na dito mo na siya talaga gagawin online.
Mm-hmm.
So, you just have to go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Ba?
Okay.
But even prior to COVID kasi, I think it also helped that we were already doing our cascades. So, people knew that, something like this is coming.
Mm-hmm.
We started to introduce it na nga to our leadership program. You do your
Mm-hmm.
pre-work here, you do your
Mm-hmm.
post-workshop here.
Mm-hmm.
And that, in a sense, already, ano tawag dito, primes you. Diba?
Yes.
Primes the employees that there's a new way of learning
Mm-hmm.
already that is being introduced. And so,
Mm-hmm.
slowly, the mindset comes in.
Mm-hmm.
What helped actually also um, is that while we started last March, we had like 345 employees already actively using the program, but we had the dip in May, in June,
Uh-huh.
and bakit? So, number one, syempre everyone's busy, but other than that, what's happening with the courses, what's happening with the
Mm-hmm.
experience,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So, uh, the team, so the team actually thought about it, looked at the performance of your learning, and they said, okay, why not try to gamify it? May ganong factor din. So, kasi it's
That's the
not just,
second shift, no?
yes, because
So,
it's not just,
mm-hmm.
so everyone's using it. We are promoting the programs. Okay. Monthly, we have a new batch of programs. But after a while, so yeah, parang the novelty wears off
Mm-hmm.
na, and you're back to the daily grind. Okay, why not gamify it? So
Mm-hmm.
the team, the L&D team, mga bagets pa kasi to,
Mm-hmm.
di ba? That's their world, right? So
Yes.
it helped that we have um very young and passionate girls
Mm-hmm.
in the L&D team. Okay, let's gamify it. So they thought of a system on how to, create leaderboards
Mm-hmm.
and then create badges and all that
Okay.
using the system, of course. May
Mm-hmm.
mga ganun namang features din yung system. So they
Mm-hmm.
leveraged on what the system had and then introduced it. So
Mm-hmm.
nag-peak na naman
Mm-hmm.
yung participation online.
Now
So
up to
naging 804 na, gano'n.
doble.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so parang naging fun kasi syempre when you have rankings, people are
Mm-hmm.
excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yun. Added to that, aside from it just having HR in the forefront, we also had other business units or other functions working alongside us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of that would be our governance team, no, because
Mm-hmm.
we had to have a series of programs related to the current pandemic, right? And then they created a series of webinars that we were doing on a weekly ba yun or bi-weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And ganun na naman, parang hundreds of people in the organization would attend across the region. And we were talking about health protocols, COVID. We were talking about how do we manage ourselves, building resilience and all that. So they were all very, and we would also invite subject matter experts from outside. So yun. So it also pulled interest, also increased again the momentum for learning, and so again back to good number of active learners. After that, so ayan na naman, budget season, strategic planning, busy na naman yung mga tao. So si L&D again thought of something very simple. It was just a communications to employees na, how are you? We missed you. Diba? Parang,
through email or through the platform?
We have an internal portal.
Okay.
An internal communications portal. So there. So how are you? We missed you. And then introduce the programs again. Peak na naman siya. So you really just have to monitor, watch out, gather feedback, just to make sure that it doesn't die down, and you're offering something new, and simple reminder na, hello, you're busy with work. How about some learning on the side?
Number one, the mindset that you were able to address was the big shift. Number two, introducing gamification. And number three, being able to use communication tools to connect with people, remind them. Diba? Tama, just a simple reminder and making them feel, the priorities, while you're focused on productivity, learning on the side. A powerful key message there.
Yeah.
What is the feedback of people? Ano mga affirmations ang natanggap natin dyan that you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing, aside from the growing numbers?
Yeah. So what we initially did when we post our monthly calendar, monthly offerings, we would also post feedback from employees.
Okay.
So that
from the survey.
From the survey, like after going our usual post workshop evaluation, from there, so it's posted also together with the calendar. So it helps in attracting other employees as well, and building curiosity. For example, especially during the pandemic, the first part, the micro courses, everyone was really thankful for that because it's a personal thing. It's your personal coping, right, with the situation. So a lot of feedback there that it's timely, that thank you for the courses and all that. Now, in other venues, like when I have my meetings with other groups or other departments, when we have workshops online, when we have surveys about the organization and all that, it comes out. Like one group would say, we had difficulty during the pandemic. Good thing there's your learning, because we were able now to manage ourselves, our worries, our fears, and also enabled us to be more productive at home because we didn't know how to. I didn't know I was already having cabin fever, mga ganyan. Then how do I manage my work time and my family on the side, things like that. So the feedback comes out even if it's a different venue, even if it's not your post workshop evaluation. So that's a validation that okay, we're on the right track, we're doing good.
Wow, it's relevant because it's helpful. It came at the right time, diba? Not of course you not knowing that something will happen. Iba rin talaga yung anticipation what's tough? We have talked about what you did in the shifts, and we just heard feedback, affirmation from employees. Looking back past 8 to 9 months when you were building it, what's tough about shifting to digital, online, and virtual for our listeners who may just be starting with the transformation?
Um, what's tough was that it was the first. And so just going through the rounds of um, the bidding,
Mm-hmm.
the accreditation processes, we would encounter like, oh, this is the first time. So how do I do it? So
Mm-hmm.
parang, okay na, approved na, let's go through this.
Mm-mm.
Ang dami pang requirements. So yung
Mm-mm.
back and forth, internal processing because
Mm-mm. Ito yung sa LMS, no, building the LMS.
the building
Okay.
the elements kasi
Mm-mm.
wala pa niyan dito eh. so
Mm-mm.
so we had to start we had to I mean our partners, let's say in finance,
Mm-mm.
in data privacy, kailangan nga pala may data privacy.
Mm-mm.
So another memo or another consultation, diba?
Mm-mm.
Things like that. Because this was the first time that we
Mm-mm.
a business unit went through
Mm-mm.
an LMS.
Okay.
So after that was also working with our vendor in building the system internally. We had to consider, syempre, the tech part of it.
Mm-mm.
And second, it wasn't the best of systems.
Mm-hmm.
But we knew what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And our minimum requirements were met.
Mm-hmm.
So my former LMS administrator really had to work at the back end. He had to
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of things manually at the back
Mm-hmm.
end to
Mm-hmm.
prepare it because
Mm-hmm.
it's not perfect. There are system integrations that need to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to do some things manually. So
Mm-hmm.
I think yun din yung key eh. You have to have the right people talaga. Kasi yung iba yan, hindi
Plug
hindi
and play na lang.
yan eh.
No?
Oo, parang
Mm-mm.
ay hindi kaya ng system o so
Mm-mm.
paano. But he
Okay.
found a way because focused on the objective, focused on the deliverable. I have to make this happen.
Mm-mm.
So he was really a great part in the build up of the LMS because trinabaho talaga niya at the back end.
Mm-mm.
And so that was tough. And then of course scheduling the pilots kasi you're asking for participation eh.
On
Wala pa
something
yung
that people are not used to, no?
Oo, wala pa yung mind nila dyan.
Mm-mm.
Yes, we introduced in the town hall, but sige, we also thought na, sige, wag tayong mag-big launch.
Mm-mm.
Let's do it quietly. Let's pilot a team na magiging relevant sa kanila yon, and let's see from there. Let's gather feedback. Diba? Ayusin muna natin. Start small, and then work on the feedback, and then polish it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and then we do the cascades. Slowly, let's build it.
Mm-hmm.
Ayun.
Wow. And my realization in the first part is a lot of L&D folks will think pag online digital ka, iisipin ka agad nila technology, the technology piece. But I like what you mentioned. It's not perfect. I assume that there's no perfect platform out there. Okay? Sabi din ni Susan, having the right people who will work on the LMS project. No? It's a good thing that you had that person, the LMS administrator that you were talking about. Kasi kung iba-iba yan, tama ka, no? Hindi kaya eh. Sorry, limited lang tayo. Affect the learner experience ngayon, no? Because of all of those limitations.
Yes.
Okay?
And it's not just the learner experience yet eh.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually building it.
Okay.
Kasi if we're going to look for the perfect system, baka may vaccine na hindi pa talaga. Kasi syempre may evolution din naman yun eh, di ba? So by the time that after 6 months, after 1 year, may bago na naman. So hindi ka matatapos. But
Mm.
Being agile, work on what you have as long as the
Mhm.
minimum requirements are there, and
Mhm.
then build it as you go along.
Mm.
And
Mm.
what's nice naman with our LMS partner is that they know that, their system is also not perfect. But when we
Mm.
ask for something, they also work on it. So
Mm.
it's really a mutual partnership between
Correct.
us.
It's important to really find the right partner, no, and to collaborate, no, especially technology being customized to fit your needs. And continuing with the so many advice that you've already given, there are a lot of L&D listeners to our podcast who maybe because of their organizational constraints, no, they were not able
Mm,
to do this before, who may now find inspiration in what you're doing. And guys, talking to our listeners, it's never too late, ha? It's never too late to start, ma'am.
mm,
Dadagdagan mo pa yung advice mo, ang dami mo nang sinabi, mindset, address the mindset. Number two, gamification is another shift that you have to prepare for. And the continuous communication using whatever technology you have. Any other advice, whether to L&D specialists who might be working on the technology or decision makers in HR or L&D who are still, apprehensive, no, or don't know where to start in this
mm,
shift, agile shift. Any
mm.
other additional pieces of advice?
Well, I would always say have the right people.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how great naman your system, you may have a great system, but if you don't have people who have the same mind as you, na this is not just work.
Mm-hmm.
This is a channel through which people can learn.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that mindset, then you're focused on the outcome, which
Mm-hmm.
is building people up.
Mm-hmm.
If that is not your focus, and your focus is just to, this is this system, let it do its work, baka baka mahirapan ka, because you need people who again have that goal in mind, building people up. And if
Mm-hmm.
you look at what's happening to your system, to what's happening to your employees, you don't stop at saying, oh, let it do its work and then let's see
Mm-hmm.
each other at the end of the year and
Mm-hmm.
evaluate, but rather looking at the trend, looking at the
Mm-hmm.
feedback, looking at, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there's a dip, what do we do, why, what's happening, and
Mm-hmm.
then figure out what can be done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh because if you don't have that dedication to the work that you do, any good system will not help you. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have the right people there.
Mm-hmm.
um and yun nga, it doesn't have to be grand every time, no.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to be simple. O sige, let's make it exciting. What can we do?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
O na-excite na, ay bumaba ulit. Kumustahin
Mm-hmm.
lang natin sila. How
Right.
are you? We miss you.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things like that. So tapos na kami sa stage na yon. Where are we now
Mm-hmm.
naman? Um, we are now introducing it on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
may capacity naman siya before on mobile,
Mm-hmm.
pero hindi pa siya malinis.
Okay.
So just last week actually, my team aligned with me. Ayun, our new LMS administrator, she studied how it works. Yung
Mm-hmm.
ganon, I experimented, I tried
Mm-hmm.
this. She creates the scenarios already
Mm-hmm.
for the employees so
Mm-hmm.
that she knows what kind of tests will she need, and what
Mm-hmm.
kind of outcomes um would she expect, para malaman niya, okay, so this is how I will create it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So up until the way we also communicate it, okay, so this is the communication poster that we will
Mm-hmm.
release.
Mm-hmm.
Simple things. Okay, so there's a QR code. So I test the QR code. Oops,
Mm-hmm.
naka-Apple ako. Ang na-capture niya na QR code yung for Android, for example.
Oo. Okay.
So simple things. Change the layout. Yung
Mm-mm.
mga ganon.
Mm-mm.
So one lesson there is,
Yung attention to detail, no? Really has to be there.
because you have to give yourself to it. Diba, everything you have to give yourself to it, because if you're just doing it just for the sake of, di mo papansinin yung mga ganon eh. And feedback like change the layout, diba, yung it may be a layout, but it helps in understanding, it helps in building a better employee experience when they go through it.
And it
So
also prevents a lot of stress, additional stress, unnecessary stress along the way, complaints escalation, no?
It minimizes. Siyempre, hindi pa rin perfect. Meron pa rin magko-complain, tapos ma-realize mo, ay, nga, hindi natin naisip yun. And then you just, adjust. Pero before you even do something, try to think of different scenarios. Not to drag you naman, but just enough for you to say, okay, we're good. Let's push it.
Yes. Wow. Dami kong takeaway. Ang isang takeaway ko kanina at the early parts that you said is as simple as engaging, engaging people. The system is not it. It's also tweaking it and customizing it. Continuously engaging people, monitoring the numbers. Yes, monitoring the participation. It's not that okay na, ready na yan, nandiyan na lang yan, iiwan natin. Which is why you know your numbers. Yes, from 9, was it 8 and 9 to 100? Sorry, to 100 plus, and then to 300 plus, and now to 800. No, and yet to our listeners, URC through the team of Susan is still continuously on it. Tama? It's sustaining and maintaining it. Eh. Wow. Pinaka-lesson ko talaga dito, Susan, is you did not know that something will happen in 2020. Call it lucky. I'll link it to my return of luck concept that I was talking about earlier in my workshop. Were you lucky? Or did you just anticipate something and better than others, not just anticipate it, you acted on it quickly. Just perfect timing, just right on time for people to use it and easily embrace it. No? And, you're now getting that feedback. But another inspiring part that I heard is don't let up. Wag tigilan. Tama? Wag maging complacent. Continue ang tutok, no? So, iba na rin ang role ng L&D, di ba? Hindi lang tayo trainers, no? But you're also managing this entire learning technology and this learning system.
Yep.
Congratulations to
Salamat.
you, your team, and URC. That was a great your learning platform. But as always, it's not just the platform. You can change the name. Yes, it's what the team, what the L&D team does to really make sure it's you drive it and it's serving the needs of the users. No?
Yep.
No? Imagine ko, no, sobrang siguro ang sabi ng mga taga-URC employees, no, puti meron kaming ganito. It's like what you said earlier.
Actually, yes.
When it mattered most. No?
Yeah, true.
I know that our community of listeners, especially those in L&D, will find a lot of useful tips that you can use. So if you're an L&D specialist and you needed to build a case, a lot of information provided by Susan, document that. If you're a business leader and you're still thinking of how to proceed, meron pang mga ganyang organizations. Di pa nila alam how to proceed. Yung iba talagang nag-expect pa rin mag face-to-face. Tama?
Yeah.
But yes, hybrid na nga po tayo. No? So, once again, our head of talent management and organization development of one of the food and beverage giants in the Philippines and in Asia, Susan and her team's story of agile transformation. Wow. I have my own story of agile transformation, and from an inside L&D practitioner's perspective, I'm inspired as well, Susan, by what you shared. More power to your team and to your learning and to URC as well. And I'll see you soon, maybe in the next virtual workshop, yes, or when it's possible to do our next in-person activity.
Okay.
So here are our dear friends. This is episode 19 on learning. Once again, our guest in this episode, Miss Susan Tayag. Let's all give her a virtual applause. Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Let's all greet our listener, Susan, with hello, world.
Hello, world.
Till the next episode.
Hi, this is Louis Banta, CEO and Chief Consultant of LJMB or Learning Just Made Better. Thanks for watching my video. To get more videos like this, click subscribe and hit the bell icon below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and share this to others.